Items for discussion by the leader of the council. Mr. Taylor, could you report, please? I believe you have a question on agenda item 13, which is the next agenda item. You have 3 minutes to ask a question, plus 2 minutes follow-up.
Thank you. It's the recently reported case where the council's covert surveillance cameras were put into someone's home that has led me to come here this evening. Now, I realise that this has technically been in the public domain now for a year or so, but it appears that no one's noticed until the details of last year's meeting were referenced in the agenda for tonight's meeting. Now, Councillor Rosensteel has tweeted in advance of this meeting to say that he thinks the only thing that went wrong in that case where the council's covert surveillance cameras were put into somebody's home was that the wrong person signed the authorisation, and that it would have been okay if the RIPA authorisation was signed by someone from the police. Now that leads me to ask the question of how often is this happening, that RIPA authorisations are being signed off against other organisations, such as the police, but the surveillance is being carried out by the City Council. And if that is happening on a regular basis, and if it's happened in the period that this report refers to, why isn't it mentioned in this report? And I'd also, we know that the City Council has equipment for things like monitoring fly tipping. It's got cameras hidden in things that look like rocks. But why does the City Council even possess the equipment to bug somebody's home covertly? The council has also, it's got a protocol for working with the police for using CCTV cameras for covert directed surveillance against individuals. But if the council is using things other than the overt city CCTV to covertly surveil individuals, does it have a protocol for working with the police in those circumstances? And surely that should be made public in the same way as the one for the protocol for working with the CCTV.
Thank you. Before Councillor Beck comes in, I will say that this issue was debated in this committee last year in a very public session. So it's not the case that it has only just come to light. And without saying too much about the case, this may come up in the answer that's has to be given. I don't think it was, strictly speaking, coercively. It was actually a householder's request and a very serious assault situation. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chair. In actual fact, I think Mr. Taylor's not asking about that case. He's talking about a question that has spun off from his awareness of that case, which I think is a perfectly reasonable question. These annual reports have been covering occasions where the council has authorised RIPA powers, and so they're on the record this year, last year, and any other years. I'm not sure there were more than 2 of them because the policy on reporting them changed. But so the question is, what about where authorisations are made by other bodies who have the power to authorise correctly, but are authorising the use of our CCTV facility? And I'm told that this is something that rarely happens and hasn't happened in the last 12 months that we're looking to report on here. I'm told that the last case was in February 2011 by the police, and I think there is an interesting point that is raised by the question, why couldn't we report those cases in the future to this committee, like as the report does today for the times we've authorised? And I would agree. I think we perhaps should do that in the future, and we'll be happy to ask officers to do that. The last part of the question, which was about why does the council possess bugging equipment, basically. Well, we don't. We don't have any kind of CCTV equipment that isn't also used on the street, and we do possess, I think, 3 redeployable CCTV units, which more typically are deployed for short-term periods where there may be a problem with antisocial behaviour or such like in the public realm, and the the equipment that was used in the case that was 2.5 years ago, but reported last week and a year ago, was involving that equipment. There was no specialist kind of plugging equipment. It was just overt equipment that was used on that occasion covertly.
Mr. Taylor, would you like to ask a follow-up?
No, that answers everything, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I now turn to agenda item 13, which can be found on page 129 of your agenda, and this is going to be introduced by Simon Hughes.
If I could firstly just add a couple of points to clarify the occasion in February 2011 where police... 2011 where, which Councillor referred to being the last occasion where we've worked with the police with a RIP authorisation. That was to do with the use of our public CCTV system, but it was focusing on a particular instance, so it was treated as directed surveillance, covert surveillance, and the police obtained the authorisation for that. We do, if the police obtain RIPA approval, we do scrutinise it and we reserve the right to not cooperate if we're not satisfied that it's a proper use of our CCTV system. I'm only aware, apart from the incident in 2010, of requests to use our public CCTV system. Just finally on that, following the meeting a year ago, our procedures were strengthened to make sure that nothing like the February 2010 incident occurred. We already introduced some measures to make that, but the committee strengthened those by basically requiring my approval before RIP authorisation was sought, so there's a kind of double check on that, so it shouldn't happen again. And we'd be very happy to report any incidents where we are cooperating with other authorities under other authorities' RIP authorisations. That said, I thought this was going to be a fairly boring, routine report, which I felt slightly apologetic about bringing to this meeting, because we've not used RIPA powers in the period covered by the report. Nonetheless, it's useful to bring it to you because the law is changing on the use of RIPA, and the Protection of Freedoms Act means that we can use covered directed surveillance in more limited circumstances, which is only investigating a crime which carries a sentence of 6 months or more. So, and secondly, it's not enough for the City Council to authorise covered surveillance. We need to put that before a magistrate who needs to be satisfied that it's proper to do. So the appendix is the policy which you approved at the meeting a year ago, but there is some additional text to alert council staff to the need to obtain approval from magistrates as well.
Thank you. Before we go to the debate, I will make a point there. There is a correction to the recommendations. Recommendation 2.2, where it reads to note and endorse the steps described in paragraph 5.1, should read paragraph 7.1. Is there any member debate? Councillor Herbert.
Well, just to say that there hasn't been any incidences, so as Mr. Pugh said, it isn't the most exciting report, but it is right that we take this responsibility very carefully, and clearly we need to have the kind of policies that are here, and officers need to follow them.
Councillor Rosenstiel.
Practical. I assume when you refer to 7.1, you refer to the paragraph labelled 6.1 under the heading 7. This is the words paragraph numbering on the rise as usual.
Yes. The wonders of Microsoft Word, I think.
Yeah, sorry, we're doing well with our office software today. However,
Well, the paragraph called 6.1 usually goes 7.1.
It's actually 7.1, but there should presumably be 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3. There's already a 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 above.
Well, if you want to simplify it, just approve the policy in the appendix.
Otherwise, I was only going to welcome the Protection of Freedoms Act, making it quite clear that a more appropriate level of authority for the magistrate for intrusive surveillance should be required, and we welcome that.
It's your counsel that were intrusive.
Any further member debate? In that case, I move to the recommendations as corrected, which we found on pages 129 and 130, I'm going to read them out. Can I see all those in favour of the recommendation, Michelle? Does the leader of the council agree with the recommendation?
I do.
Thank you very much. I now turn to agenda item 14.